A murder in Hafnarfjörður, Icelanders fight to save a beloved theater, an incredible whale story on this episode of the Reykjavik Newsdesk. A man in his 40s was found stabbed to death in Hafnarfjörður. His body was discovered in an industrial area, and the prime suspect in this killing is his roommate, who is still in police custody. This marks the third murder in Iceland in the past 2 months. There was a stabbing in the parking lot of a grocery store, also in Hafnarfjörður on April 20th, and on April 28th, a woman was found dead in her home in Selfoss. Now, for this latest case, the details are still very, very scant. The story just broke, but I will keep you updated on new developments as they arise. The thing that we were all waiting to happen has happened. Jón Gunnarsson is no longer Minister of Justice, and Independence Party MP Guðrún Hafsteinsdóttir is now our new Minister of Justice. The outgoing minister was praised by Independence Party Chair and Finance Minister Bjarni Benediktsson as having done a fantastic job while in his office and said that he had the backing of his entire party. Bjarni also took the opportunity to remind everyone that now the majority of the Independence Party's ministers are women, which is a first for the Independence Party's history. Guðrún didn't give any specifics as to what she intended to do first as Minister of Justice, but she did say that there would be some changes in store. What those changes will be, we'll just have to wait and see, but she said that she will just see how things develop. For his part, Jón said that he had not been planning to stay on as Justice Minister, which is kind of funny because when the designated time when he would have been stepping down and Guðrún would be stepping in came and went, I don't remember him speaking up to remind everybody about the agreement made in November 2021 that he would only be serving half the electoral term as Justice Minister and she would be taking over, but he said what he said. There's no word on the future plans for Jón Gunnarsson beyond just being a MP for his party. So we'll just have to see. But it's pretty likely that he'll get a chairmanship of some parliamentary committee or another. Ceratopagonidae, also known as no-see-ums in English, or lusmi, that is, louse midges in Icelandic, are back in season again. These insects are not native to Iceland and are very, very recent arrivals. In fact, the earliest known biting of a lusmi was in 2015. Since then, they have been regular summer guests in Iceland, in particular in the south and west of the country. Anyone who has had to deal with these bugs will tell you that they're incredibly annoying insects because they're very, very tiny, and while their bites are almost imperceptible when they happen, they do leave behind painful itching welts. Also, due to their small size, they can make their way into your home pretty easily, and Iceland is not a country that's well known for having window screens. That being said, there are steps that you can take if you're in Iceland during the summer and you want to prevent getting bitten by these insects. Number one is a common house fan pointed out the window apparently works pretty well because the little buggers are too tiny to be able to fight against the air current of a common house fan. They're also reportedly repelled by citronella and camphor and mint in just about any form, whether it's incense or essential oils, like either rubbed directly onto your skin or diluted with some water and made into a spray. That'll also keep them at bay for the most part. Fortunately, one characteristic of Icelandic summers, especially in the southwest, is they tend to be rainy. And again, these insects are too tiny to be able to fight against raindrops. They're probably like giant boulders of water to these insects. So, for most of the summer at least, we don't have to worry about them. But when they are out, they can be a real pain. So do take these precautions. And if you know of any other precautions, leave them in the comments below. University researchers, rescuers, and even whale watching boat companies all took part in following a humpback whale that had gotten itself tangled in fishing lines in North Iceland over the weekend. It was actually a whale watching boat that first discovered the whale on Friday night and followed it and kept track of it through the night. And then the next day, researchers from the University of Iceland in Húsavík and a rescue squad from that same town also joined in following the whale. Watching over this whale and coming up with plans for what steps, if any, to take included the shooting of drone footage. So I've linked to the article in the description where you can check out some of the drone footage of this magnificent animal. It's really breathtaking to witness. Fortunately, there's a happy ending here in that the whale freed itself of the fishing lines. But this is a very common occurrence. In fact, it's estimated that some 25% of humpback whales spotted in waters around Iceland's shores show signs of having been tangled in fishing lines at one point or another. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will be visiting Iceland at the end of June. He is to be the guest of honor of a meeting of prime ministers of northern countries, which is going to be held in the Westman Islands on June 25th and 26th. Also present at this meeting will be leaders from Åland, the Faroe Islands, and Kalalit Nunaat, also known as Greenland in English. Part of the occasion for holding this summit in the Westman Islands is that 2023 marks the 50th anniversary of the devastating volcanic eruption on the Westman Islands, which began January 23rd of 1973 and ended on July 3rd of the same year. There's no word yet on whether or not the police will use this opportunity to order more machine guns for themselves, as they did during the Council of Europe summit last May. And lastly, Tjarnarbíó, one of Iceland's oldest theaters, is fighting to stay open. Now, the theater announced earlier this week that without increased funding and without expanding the area of the space, they would be forced to close down this autumn. And this kicked off a petition that has already garnered some 2,500 signatures at the time of this recording. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of the historical significance of this building, it was originally built in 1913, and it used to house an ice house and a fire station. But during World War II, it was converted into a theater, and it was used as a theater by the University of Iceland and by the city of Reykjavik, and was completely taken over by the city of Reykjavik in the early 1960s. Since then, it has been a cultural hub to the people of Reykjavik for generations now. The theater is calling for help from both the city of Reykjavik and the national government, and if you want to encourage these people to indeed help them with funding, I've linked to the petition in the description below. Well, that's all I have for you today on the Reykjavik News Desk. Be sure and like and subscribe, and I just want to say that the viewer poll is still up on my Patreon. For the unfamiliar, the viewer poll, which is for $15 and $20 patrons, allows you, the viewer, to decide what single topic I cover in a single topic video. Also, just want to give a reminder that my next Ask Me Anything session will be this Saturday, June 24th at 1600 hours GMT. And this is an opportunity for $20 patrons to be able to join me on a video call and ask me questions about anything, as the name would suggest, about myself, about Newsdesk, about Iceland, about Reykjavik, about whatever comes to mind. We always have a fantastic time, and you can get in on both of these things by checking out my Patreon in the description below, which reminds me, I want to thank Corinne Vasquez, Marion Ward, Christopher Hunter, Marion Moores, Kimberly McDaniel, Iceman98, and Octavia Hrund-Jonsdottir for being patrons on the $20 level, Ian Kingsley and Laura Johnson for being patrons on the $15 level, and Hafstein Himinljómi Reginason, Stephen Ellis, and Vivi Carvalho Schaffner for being patrons on the $10 level. You folks rock. That's all for me at Newsdesk. Be good to each other.